You're good.
Okay. You know what? I was hoping to start on the other one, but this is my second screen. I don't know how to get back. Oh, there we go. Okay, what happened here? I moved into a new place. I'm an electrician, and what we found is we had a bunch of switch receptacles. We didn't know where they were controlled from, so we wanted to remove them, and we wanted to do it safely. So it wasn't really me, it was mostly my kids that wanted it. I didn't really care. So that's my daughter, and the spaceman's my son, and that's myself. So they were really eager to get it done because my son kept putting his charger into this receptacle and it would turn off. We have a bunch of these banks of switches, so I put 2 dimmers in, and we had a third switch. We didn't know what the hell it did. So what we wanted to do is figure out which switch was switched, or which receptacle was switched, and we wanted to remove it so we could just keep something plugged in there like our chargers and just let it charge away. So we use this plug tester. I put it in there, and we just started playing with all the switches, and we found out that we actually had 3 of these switch receptacles, and they were super annoying. So first thing we wanted to do is grab our tools. It's a very simple job to remove one of these things. So what I have here is a set of strippers and a multi-tip screwdriver, and I find these work the best, and that's all you really need for this. But just in case, you guys want to make sure that you have a whole bunch of tools just in case things go wrong. So these ones kind of fix everything in this little condo we lived in. So it's got some side cutters, needle nose pliers. We have our lineman plier in the middle there. That's our tool of every electrician, and everyone should have something like that. So first thing we want to do is make sure we turn off the power to this receptacle. So a lot of times you'll end up trying to find the actual breaker that turns on and off the receptacle. So instead, what I like to do is just shut off the main breaker. So once you shut off the main breaker, all the power to your unit goes off. You just have to make sure that you turn it on before your freezer defrosts, because that always turns into a mess. But this will only take about 10 or 15 minutes. It's really not that big of a deal. So once you do turn it off, you want to use one of these meters, or what we have is a couple plug testers there. That little orange one's a plug tester, the green one's a plug tester. You can use a digital multimeter, but a lot of times if you don't have any of this stuff, all you want to do is maybe plug in a radio. So you plug in a radio or plug in a light, go back to your panel, start turning off breakers until the one that turns off the radio. The radio is the best because then you can actually hear it when you hit the right one. So if you do get one of these plug testers, what you want to do is actually read it. There's a lot of great information on this stuff, and each one's a little bit different. If you look at this little plug tester on the left-hand side, it says you want to test it on a known live circuit first, just to make sure it works. And then when you shut everything off, put it on the receptacle, make sure it's dead, and then you can start removing it. Let's see here. Oh, so I shut it off. Now you can see the lights in this tester on the top and on the bottom are off, so it's safe to work on. So the first thing you want to do is remove the screw, or the cover plate. The little plastic plate comes off with this little slotted screwdriver. From there, you want to remove the top and the bottom. These are little 632 screws. The top one you can see doesn't have paint on it. The bottom one's been painted. You might just have to chip it a little bit, get rid of that paint, and the thing comes right out. So once we pull this receptacle out, you can see we have 3 wires now. Well, we actually have 4 wires. We have a bare wire, that's the bond or the ground wire, they call it. You have a neutral, or the identified conductor, that's the white one. And on the hot side here, we have a black wire and a red wire. So the top of this receptacle was actually the one that was turning on and off. And so what we're gonna have to do is oh, wait a second, this is flipped over. The red one was actually the one that was turning on and off. You can see between these two screws, there's a little piece of brass that's missing. Usually that piece of brass is on the receptacle. I have my next couple slides will show this. But when you do have that box out, or the receptacle out, take a look inside the box and you can see a whole mess of things in there. There's all your connections of your neutral wire, which is the white one, all the connections on your brass wire or your copper wire, which is your bond wire. And then the black wire is also spliced together, and the red one's also in there. So it looks kind of messy, but all that's just fine. See here. So as we have the receptacle out, that red wire is the strip, or is the switched wire. So what I did is cut that off. And if you look at the two little brass screws there, in between the brass screws, there's a little clip that's been removed. So this is definitely the switched receptacle we want to get rid of. What you want to do is, once you disconnect that red wire, I use that blue cap, which is called a wire nut. You might know it as a Moret. This one's a blue Ideal manufacturer wire nut. And you just put it on there and fold everything nicely back. And now that red wire is safe. So you don't have to worry about it accidentally being turned on after. So here on the right-hand side, the blue arrow shows that little tab that's still on. On the left-hand side is the old receptacle. That little tab's been removed. That way you know it's a switched receptacle. Actually, in the kitchen, on your kitchen receptacles, they'll have two circuits, one on the top and one on the bottom. That tab also has to be removed for your kitchen receptacles. So if you ever have one of your kitchen receptacles that's not working, just go back to your panel and start resetting all the breakers, and everything will work just fine. So on the right-hand side is the new receptacle. It's been replaced and the tab's in place, and it'll work just fine. Let's see here. So instead of using the quick connects in the back, I like to go around the screws. Kind of that's what every electrician does. Unless you're in a rush, you kind of want to use the screws the most. On the right-hand side, so your black wire will go to the brass screws, and on your left-hand side, your neutral will go to the nickel-plated screws, and your bond conductor here, this copper bare, will go to this screw on the bottom. Is usually a green screw, and that's mostly for your safety, so you're not shocking yourself. Once you're done, just put it all back together, put on that plastic cover plate, and you're good to go. Once it's in place, you can go back and you can turn on your main breaker. Make sure nobody's around that receptacle, just in case it shorts out, but everything should be okay. And I've included a couple references here. This top book, the Knight PS Electrical Code Simplified, has kind of everything. If you have an old house and you want to do any electrical work, this has nice visuals in it, and it's a wonderful book you can pick up from Home Depot. So that's it. Now you can replace the receptacle nice and safe. That's the end of my presentation.
Great. Thanks, Bob. That was sweet.
Cool.
I have a couple questions. You mentioned you mentioned when you're installing the new wires, you like to go around the brass screw. Is that just because it makes it more secure than the slot in the back?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, when they do high rises, they'll always use those quick connects, but you'll find that they loosen up. If you have a heavy load like a toaster will actually burn them out pretty quick in your kitchen.
Interesting. Good to know. Good to know. Thanks. And then I have one more question too. Those plug testers.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a radio works really, really well.
Yeah.
Do they ever have any auditory versions of the plug tester? Like, will it ever go beep or anything like that?
Yeah, the one with the stick. Actually, I had it here somewhere. The one that looks like a stick is called a Voltic, and that will beep also.
Okay,
So you
cool.
just plug that in and listen for it. So
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Well, Bob, awesome presentation. Thank you so much. One quick question for you.
Yes.
What happens if somebody ends up just changing that switch plug and they still connect the red, the black, and they don't remove that tab?
Well, if it's the same circuit, nothing will happen. But if it's two
Okay.
different circuits, you'll short it out.
Okay.
The
So
breaker
that-
will trip, right?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I just a quick question.
Sure.
Is anyone can do this job, or you have to get some license to do this?
No, everyone can do it. Just make sure you turn off the power.
Okay, all right, okay,
And if you install it wrong, you'll just trip the breaker
okay,
and
Got
maybe
it.
start a fire.
all right. I
A
probably stay
small
away.
fire, a small fire though.
Yeah, let's hope it's small fire. That's
No
right.
fire. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. You know what? It was nice meeting all of you guys.
Yeah, certainly. You as well.
Likewise, pleasure meeting you.
Yeah.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
appreciate-
really, I did learn a lot tonight. Like all of you, like the subject, the topics, it's never heard before. Like totally new, open eyes.
Oh, I'm just gonna-
Agreed. No, it was